Last gasp effort. It's been so long, the audio is a little low of the highlight, but that was East Carolina stopping the University of Miami in September 25th, 1999 at Carter Finley Stadium, a home win for ECU. The head coach at the time, Steve Logan, my friend, who is coming back to radio. I'm looking forward to this. 5 to 7 Thursday nights. I know our affiliate here, they're listening to us right now at 94.3 The Game in Greenville. It's going to be there. Also, 96.3 as well. How are you, Coach?
I'm doing great. How's things going?
We're the sun is out right now. It's drying us out until more rain comes. But that's what's happening.
I'm getting ready to get in the car and drive down to the coast right through the middle of this, and I'm getting ready to have the family down. It's going to be pretty once it clears out. It's going to be really pretty the next 2 days. So I got all 4 grandkids, which are known as the Wet Squirrel Gang, and they will hit the condo, and it'll be destroyed in about 48 seconds.
And you love it.
I love every minute.
I know you do. I know everything about that.
Laugh.
That is all right. First of all, when I found out that East Carolina was going to honor the 99 team, I thought, you and I have talked about this so many times, it's almost like on repeat. We could have this conversation. We've already had this conversation. But like teams that win championships, when you talk about what that team had to go through, being displaced in Columbia, South Carolina, because you couldn't get back, and then living really out of suitcases and with store-bought underwear, all of that. What kind of bond is there among players and coaches and people around that 99 team?
Well, those kinds of teams have a great paradigm built into the locker room. And on the offensive side of the ball, of course, we had a future NFL, all-pro quarterback in David Garrard that was running the show on the offensive side of the football. And then on the defensive side of the football, we had a young man named Jeff Carr who was playing linebacker for us. He was a young man out of Charlotte, really an under-recruited kid that became he couldn't have been a better collegiate football player. He was not a pro prospect, but he was just a powerful, powerful personality in the locker room. Mm-hmm. So when a coach has that, you can go about, managing all the other things you need to do, the X's and O's and all the myriad of things that happen. So, those 2 young men, they had a hold of everything. And, the week we spent in total chaos down in South Carolina, those 2 guys managed that for me and for the team. And the team followed them, by not going crazy and doing all of the millions of stupid things that 18 to 22-year-olds could do living in a hotel for a week. Right. Nothing was nothing happened, So I didn't really have to worry about that. And it let us, customize minute to minute what needed to be done to prepare for the football game that was coming up. And, had it been another group of kids, let's say the 98 team, which was still forming and the locker room was a mess. The 97 team was a fractured locker room. And, if I'd have had those 2 teams, for instance, or any coach would have had that kind of thing going on where the locker room wasn't rock solid, it could have been, you'd go to Carter Finley and get beat 400-0. And, thankfully that didn't happen. We were behind, I think, 20 or 24-0 before we ever figured out how to play the game and came back and won it. But it was a personality, the collective personality was really strong on that football team.
I remember being there. It was 23-3 after Miami kicked a field goal early in the third quarter. And you guys closed on a 24-0 run, just to put it in basketball terms. But I remember, I remember being at Carter Finley Stadium that night. It was one of those things where you have to go if you could. And obviously, it was not supposed to be a game played at Carter Finley Stadium. If it was in Dowdy-Ficklin, I'm not sure I would have gone, to be honest. But you guys were displaced. What was the preparation for that game like from, outside of your home base. Again, all of the things that you had to go through.
Well, I'm old enough now to tell you, anything and everything and not really give a damn.
Right.
Okay. So, when the game, we figured out we couldn't go home, I called Lou Holtz. We'd just beaten Lou Holtz at South Carolina.
Yes.
And I said, hey, can we use your facility to practice when you're not? Whenever they weren't, we didn't care. We'd practice in the morning or at midnight or whatever. And he absolutely said, no way, which stunned me. And as you can tell, it still stuns me. I mean, just think about that for a minute. I'm going to let that just marinate for a minute.
Wait,
okay?
so did you personally ask Lou Holtz this, and he said no personally?
Yeah. Our administration asked everybody, and I was like, wait a minute, you said no? No, don't want you anywhere near us. Okay. So I found a high school that had basically a field of mud to practice in, and we didn't really practice. We just had what you call walkthroughs.
Right.
Because that's all we could really do. I mean, the pads, the practice uniforms, nothing was available. We were hunting around for a football.
Right.
And so we had walkthroughs, and of course I was trying to, save the kids' legs and try to, we found a weight room to go to so we could, stay in some sort of shape. But I was having these little, 1-hour walkthroughs in the afternoon and film sessions that were set up in the hotel, and just everything was extemporaneous and had to be very creative along the way. The meals, and a side story to that, talking about the locker room, I was ordering, I was working for an athletic director at the time that was not the greatest.
Right.
And he came to me, and of course this was all uncharted waters, and I told him, I said, I'm going to do whatever I need to do, and I don't talk to me ever the rest of your life. And so I began to order lobster, shrimp, casserole, you name it. It was New York City 5-star meals, every meal. Okay?
Right.
And about midway through the week, Jeff Carr and David Garrard came and knocked on my door and said, Coach, what are we going to have for dinner tonight? And I said, I don't care, whatever you guys want. And they said, could we just have some McDonald's Big Macs and fries? And I said, are you serious? And so, I had I was hitting way above my weight. I thought I was doing them a great, but it was way out of their league. So that night we had McDonald's, all you could eat, but it was just an oddity, how you think you're doing something right and you're not.
Right.
As a leader, but I've never forgotten that. But, those were the kinds of things. It was an incredible learning experience from a leadership standpoint. And I had great leaders below me, thank God. But, that kind of stuff was going on. And so you're right, there was a bond. It was a strong team anyway, but it bonded. And, off we went into the night to play the football game. And, I remember driving to the game, and I was sitting with my offensive coordinator, Doug Martin. I said, Doug, do you think anybody's even going to come to this game?
Yeah.
Seriously. I mean, I was like, I don't think anybody, this is going to be like a scrimmage. And, of course, we rolled in there, and it looked like, the county fair. And so the whole thing was, everything that happened was a surprise because it has happened many times since, curiously enough, where games have been postponed
Right.
due to hurricanes and stuff. But I believe this was the first time that this kind of happened. And I know it was the first time where somebody didn't get to even go home.
Right.
So, again, everything was uncharted. Everything was, you better be flexible. And that was the gospel I was preaching to everybody around me. No matter what happens, nobody's allowed to bitch. And they didn't. And so, we were able to, at some point during that football game, wake up. We were playing good football, even though we were behind 23-3 or whatever it was you said. And another little inside baseball story, I was on the headsets in the first half with Doug, and I said, Doug was calling the plays upstairs, and I said, and when Doug called down, he said, Steve, I'm telling you, we're calling the right play at the right time. He said, those guys are so fast. And I said, Doug, you ought to be down here. You think they're fast from the play? You ought to be down here where I am. These guys are going by me. I got windburn. And because you look at the team that we beat, it was just loaded with NFL football players, loaded, top to bottom. And, but eventually, the guys, when you play those kinds of teams, I did have a lot of experience, with David and Goliath.
Yeah.
And so I knew how to talk to the kids before these kinds of games. And I told them, I said, look, this is going to be one of those things where if you just don't get overwhelmed, you win these kinds of games on the last play of the game, which we had done to South Carolina 6 days earlier. South Carolina had a great football team, but we were a really good football team, and we beat South Carolina, whatever it was, 20-3 or whatever.
21-3, yeah.
So, we knew we were good, but sure enough, we got the game slowed down a little bit. And then, got our feet on the ground, and the rest is hit. The thing about Miami, I think I played them 4 times in my career and lost once. I beat them at Boston College, beat them at East Carolina. I never lost to them except one time. But the thing that I kept preaching about Miami, for all of their bravado, I knew what they were intuitively. I knew what they were. It was bravado, bravado, bravado. But if you got them deep into a place where they've never been and they're not supposed to be close with East Carolina late. And if you can get them there, they'll crack because you're cracking the bravado. It was a false bravado that they paraded around, and I knew that intuitively. And I preached it to my football team, and they believed me. And every time that we played them, we would crack the bravado and win the game. And it was a true adventure in psychology to a degree. But we had good football players.
Yeah, you did. You did, and you mentioned David Garrard, who played for a decade in the NFL and was a dynamite NFL quarterback. Steve Logan is joining us. The reason why we're talking about the game between East Carolina and Miami back in 1999, September 25th at Carter Finley Stadium, is because East Carolina is going to honor that team Week 4. I believe it's the 28th of September at home against Texas San Antonio. I think one of the things I don't think I've ever asked you about that team is the aftermath, so to speak, of that game. And how long did it take for that team to have anything that resembled normalcy on campus within the season? Not to mention coming down from a win like that, considering the circumstances, but how long before it returned to normal?
Well, I think I've shared this with you. The best coaching job I ever did in my entire life, and I mean this seriously, was the next week. I got on the bus, and again, sitting with Doug Martin, my offensive coordinator, we got on the bus after I did the little radio show, whatever you do at the end of the games, the stadium and all that stuff. And I looked at Doug and I said, Doug, do you know that we're going to go to Army in 6 days and get beat 7,000-0? And he said, absolutely, that's going to happen. And so we went back, and the moment we hit campus, all of the football team had to go stand in line with FEMA people, which is like going to the DMV, right? You're talking to Stone Age Neanderthals about something that's never happened before, government workers that were trying to help. But, again, this is uncharted territory. Nobody knew anything.
Right.
And so all the kids' apartments were gone. My secretary at the time, God bless her, she's passed away, but, her name was Joyce Stroud. Joyce went back to Greenville ahead of time and rented out an entire new apartment complex, almost every apartment for the players. And we just got side money to do it. Again, everything was done extemporaneously.
Right.
And I said, Joyce, when these kids get back, I want them to have an apartment. I want towels, plates, forks, knives, chairs, couches, you name it. I don't want any distractions. Okay? And so she went back and did this with God knows where we got the money. And I'll never forget, David Gard came in the next day after we came back on the bus. He went to this brand new apartment, and he came the next morning. I said, Dave, how's your apartment? He said, Coach, this is the first time I've ever had matching towels. I said, I know, because you stole all the other towels out of the locker room. I know.
Gosh.
But anyway, this was going on. So we didn't practice for Army. Again, we just had walkthroughs through the week.
Right.
We went to Army and kicked 5 field goals. That football team, by the way, also, I had an All-American punter and an All-American kicker.
Yeah.
Kevin Miller was kicking field goals, never missed a field goal in his life, and Andrew Bays was punting. He was a consensus All-American first-team punter. Okay, and we kicked 5 field goals and intercepted a pass and returned it for a touchdown to win the game 22-0. And we won that game. And after the Army game, things began to resemble normal life again because the kids, got situated in their apartments, found some underwear and socks.
Yeah.
Literally, silly stuff like that. Toothbrushes.
Yep.
I mean, everything was gone. So anyway, it took a while to get back to something normal, but good football team and quite a memory, really.
Well, I look forward to the 28th of September when you guys are honored. I hope.
Well, I didn't even know this was happening.
Are you serious? How do they do this without letting you know?
Because nobody
That's
can find me.
insanity.
No, nobody can find me. Oh, Lord.
That is insanity. Whatever. You and I'll celebrate it if they're not going to call you.
Okay.
Have a great time with the grandkids down at the beach, and I will talk to you very soon.
All right. Thanks for having me.
You got it.